Hello, hello, hello. We were told by Anna two things. One, to project to the audience, and two, to look at the clock. So we are going to respect her wishes. But thank you all for coming to our panel. What we've observed in terms of what speakers have talked about on this stage are really orders of magnitude, levels of effort to push this ecosystem into their next evolutionary phase, which is why we're so excited to talk about compression. We have a great mix of panelists here, which I will let them introduce themselves in a moment. But our goal today is to really talk about what compression does, the technical feats we had to manage to get there, and some of the use cases when we're talking with partners, activation of this asset, and how we actually help them move forward. So we're going to manage a technical and more of a use case, product-centric conversation here. So I'm Ash. I'm from Metaplex. We're just going to go down the row for people to introduce themselves. Austin.
Hi, I'm Austin. I'm one of the engineers at Metaplex working on compression.
Sure. Hi, I'm Kanan. I'm the CEO at Stardust.
Hey everyone, I'm Rodri, co-founder at Crossment.
Hey everyone, I'm Vidor. Built blockchains for a few years, discovered Solana, started building wallets, explorers, DeFi protocols, focusing on Soulflower wallets right now.
Awesome. So, as builders within Solana, I think we can all agree that some of the out-of-box benefits are really incredible today. One, you have a highly performative network, minimal energy consumption footprint, and because of the emphasis of the Solana Labs team and the builders early on in the space on community, you have a vibrant culture already ready to go. So what does compression do? Well, when we look at the next phase of people minting at scale, to the scale of millions, billions of NFTs, compression bends the cost curve. So today, costs linearly scale. So if you want to mint 10,000 NFTs, it's 120 SOL. With compression, it's 3. So you have a 40x savings. If you want to mint 1 million NFTs, before compression, it was 12,000 SOL. With compression, it's 5 SOL. And if you want to mint 1 billion, the cost is 12 million SOL pre-compression. Post-compression, it's 500 SOL. So I really want to emphasize that because you can actually start to imagine the use cases that pop up when cost is not an extreme gate to actually scale. So the way I want to position some of the conversation here is understanding that you should know we are in a beta phase for this product, which means that we are integrated with some core infrastructure and wallet partners like Soulflower to have a dev-ready experience for you all. But we are fastly pushing to general access to the public, which we'll talk a little through at the end. But Austin, we're here in beta, but can you talk a little bit about the technical journey to get us here?
Yeah. So the compression project represents a lot of work that the Solana Labs team and the Metaplex Studios team have done together. Very, very smart individuals. Our team was able to work with their team to create a new generalized system for compressing any form of account data on Solana. But after that was created and the technical challenges there were solved, we turned to, okay, now let's compress NFTs, because that was always the chief goal. But again, it's a generalized system for compressing any data on Solana, which I think is a very key point to bring up. So bring your use case. We had to solve one specific problem, which was that Merkle trees, which just in general are not very easily parallelizable, because you have to do one thing right after another. And that's not going to work on a blockchain that can go concurrently. And so, Jerry Zhao and Noah and a lot of the Solana Labs team and the Metaplex team were able to push through this barrier by creating something called the concurrent Merkle tree. And you can read more about that in the compression documentation and everything like that. That allows us to have, possibly, well, not possibly, it allows us to have, let's say, a tree with 1 billion positions that you can have NFTs in, And if every one of those is owned by one specific person, those operations can happen without these people have to be waiting on each other. And with the high throughput of Solana, we can now mint and operate at scale with compression. Not only that, but of course it reduces the costs, which also helps bring more use cases on. It helps bring more people into the ecosystem to create a stronger network.
That's great. So, Kanan, knowing you're leading Stardust and the job to be done, how do you think about kind of the use case of minting at this scale and kind of what your customers need? Talk a little bit about that.
100%. I'll start quickly with Stardust. We're a platform that obfuscates blockchain for game developers so they can manage millions, hopefully billions of players at scale, fully custodial, minting with API keys and JSON data rather than sending transactions directly to the blockchain. Many of our customers, mobile, desktop, are thinking about scale much past the 10,000 NFTs we've seen to date. And so we have customers coming to us and saying, how do we put 100 million plus NFTs on Solana for 5 million MAU? Cost is a definite concern for them as they look at their LTVs or lifetime value per user and what NFTs can do for that cost curve. And pre-compression, the effective 30 cents, 40 cents per mint on Solana for anything above 10,000 NFTs made it very difficult for them to monetize with NFTs users that were not full-scale whales. With compression, we can now bring NFTs to millions and billions of people through Solana, through Stardust to our customers in a cost-effective manner that allows them to better monetize their games and better think about use cases on what to do with NFTs for the long term.
What are some of those use cases that they've come to you with?
Sure. I can't speak too much to what some of our great customers are doing. We see a lot of customers thinking about the crossover between games and DeFi. And when you have resources in UGC-based games, it's very important to create sustainable markets. And I know we're not here to talk about creative royalties, but with royalties going back to those developers. And so when you have millions of players creating tens of millions, hundreds of millions of items in a UGC-based environment month over month, pricing all comes back to that being on-chain to be able to leverage these great marketplaces we have today, and also DeFi products like Orca and more.
That's awesome. Rodri, I want to pass it to you. You've really been amazing in onboarding enterprise customers as one aspect of what Crossmint is doing, but talk to me a little bit about what your customers are looking for and how this kind of enables that.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. Super quick intro to Crossmint. We build infrastructure to make NFTs more accessible. So you may know us by powering credit card purchases at Magic Eden and some of the other largest marketplaces. But more broadly, we're building infrastructure to enable enterprises to create and distribute NFTs at scale to mainstream audiences as well. So today, there's 3 challenges for enterprise adoption. The first one is that gas fees are very expensive. Well, now no more. Second one is that most of the audiences of enterprises don't have wallets. They don't know what crypto is. And the third one is if an enterprise wants to create an NFT, they have to create a crypto wallet. They have to decide who gets to store those keys within the enterprise. And there's a lot of security and auditing considerations that makes it such that starting a project is extremely inefficient and takes often months to go to market, and everyone is reinventing the wheel. So today, we're launching a new product for minting for enterprises that enables them to create NFTs and send them to anyone. That anyone can be a wallet address or an email address at scale for about 10 cents per NFT, including gas fees in Solana. And costs will go down with volume, but also as compression is fully rolled out. Some examples of how enterprises are using or have been using in our beta the minting API are Solana Spaces. The physical retailer is airdropping every week a weekly newsletter in the form of an NFT. That's a use case that before, with 40 cents per NFT, was absolutely impossible or unthinkable. But now, with just a few cents, it totally is. Another client of us called Heng, they're building NFT-based loyalty programs for some of the leading brands and retailers in the world. And they're leveraging the API to be able to distribute those NFTs in a way that in which customers don't even know that that's an NFT. It has all of the benefits of it, but with all of the complexity abstracted. And we have ticketing companies and others also piloting on how to transform that industry through the use of NFTs.
That's great. Vidor, I want you to talk about a couple things, but the first thing is, thank you so much for having a product ready by Breakpoint. I think they did it in 3 weeks. So we really appreciate that because people can actually see how it feels and works. But when you think about compression and the use cases it opens up, right? It's not so much about, one person having 1 million NFTs themselves. It's 1 million people or 10 million people or 20 or 100 or 1 billion having at least one NFT. So from your perspective of Solflare on the wallet side, how do you think about 1 billion people having an NFT and trying to do a bunch of things with it in your platform?
Yeah, thanks, Ash. Well, there's a few things to unpack here. From a wallet perspective, we think that it is really important for wallets to not depend on some third-party APIs or some proprietary technology, because all of us here are working under the assumption that Solana is a distributed ledger that will always be online, and the way that we communicate with this distributed ledger is through RPCs. So we firmly believe that all of this additional technology that's being built should be built within those RPCs. Just to clear it up, so we don't call some third-party API that might be hosted on Amazon or something. We let the users choose their RPC endpoints, and these RPC endpoints return in most cases a truthful state of what the ledger says. And I think compressed NFTs are actually like a revolutionary thing, because why would you need to allocate so much space on the blockchain when you can just provide a proof that's aggregated into few bytes, 34 whatever bytes of data that you as a client can prove. So you can basically prove the ownership of your existence totally offline. So we might as well call this layer 2 for NFTs on top of Solana that lets us mint billions of NFTs. And another thing is that we've heard some great solutions from Canon about how they manage minting NFTs for their partners and their games. This obviously needs to be a very stage-by-stage process. For example, you cannot expect a game that wants to onboard with this type of interoperable assets to jump in and start crafting Solana transactions. Sometimes it is important to give them an API, a key, some infrastructure, some interfaces that they're used to interfacing with, and let them build on that. The good thing is that all of this data would be put on a blockchain, or it will be in the form of compressed NFTs. And us, as Solflare, we really have the best interest for our users to display all of their assets, all of the assets that the user owns, either them being directly on the blockchain or in the form of compressed NFTs. If you want to unwrap that NFT, uncompress that NFT, then it will start living as a separate NFT on the blockchain, and you will be able to list it, send it, move it, do whatever you want with it. Just maybe want to stress out one more point, and that is the verifiability that you actually own this asset. And the great thing in an architecture decision that Metaplex did here and Solana Labs with concurrent Merkle trees is that all of this compressed NFT technology is built on top of existing RPCs, on top of existing Solana infrastructure, meaning that it's easy for developers to plug in, very easy for developers to implement, and there are some few very cool RPC providers as RPC Pools, Triton, that are already working on implementing this. So ultimately our implementation as a wallet boils down to implementing the new methods for obtaining these compressed NFTs and displaying them with other NFTs in our wallet.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Austin, do you want to talk a little bit about how you approach the RPC model here?
Yeah, so the concurrent Merkle tree produces very, very little state on chain. And that's on purpose, of course, which requires the actual proofs, what we call the leaves of the Merkle tree, to be stored somewhere, right? And the way that we designed it is that those leaves can always be reconstructed from looking at the transaction history. And the best place to obviously get transaction history and actual ledger state data is from the RPC provider. The reason is because even if an RPC node becomes malicious, you can just move to another one that's running the correct version of software. It's all running the same specification. Solana RPC providers run the same software in most cases. They serve the same data. And we use that millions of times a day, every day. The Metaplex, what we call the Metaplex Read API, which is what we have built with Solana Labs and with Triton and with Genesis Go and with many other partners like Solflare, is a disaggregated, is the term that I'm using, decentralized system that the RPC providers run. They run an instance just like they run an instance of the Solana validator code. And this allows, and it's deployed right alongside the JSON RPC system that we know and love today. And it creates a lot of performance advantages as well. We not only serve compressed NFTs, but regular NFTs. If you've ever had to work with a proprietary indexer before, now the data comes in a standardized format that you can build much better, more performant dApps on top of a open source, decentralized community specification. And for indexers, can use this as a low-level API to create analytical and historical data systems. I want to stress that anyone can spin up the open source code and run it for yourself. The nice part about this is Solana's doing all the really hard work of validating, and with the validator, the big nodes that we need to run the Solana validator getting smaller and smaller every day, I'm sure, we can now run this Read API on commodity hardware, which means RPC providers can now bring customers over to this, and they can create more stable dApps that don't have to wait for get program accounts to resolve if you're a developer. So it makes things faster. So I would like to shout out the RPC providers we're currently implemented with, and Triton and Genesis Go. They've done an amazing job, GigaBrains, but also the several that I think Ashka mentioned that are actively working on integrating it and running it for themselves today.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we're in beta. A large part of the long pole work here is to make sure the ecosystem is ready for compressed asset creation and interoperability. So huge shout out to Solflare, Triton, Genesis Go. We are moving towards integration with Alchemy, Helios, QuickNode, and Phantom will be compatible as well pretty soon. So once we've done that work, the whole ecosystem will be ready for compressed assets, which we're really excited about. I definitely want to keep talking about, Kanan, how you've actually approached your business model as it related to cost, and how you think about kind of compression as like an additive to that.
Sure. I can speak to, we've actually been doing internal compression of NFTs on Solana for quite some time. I think where we are most excited to work with Metaplex and others on this compression standard is seeing it adopted ecosystem-wide will allow compression to mean more than just to the end developer, but the whole ecosystem, right? All the people looking on SolScan and in wallets and on marketplaces, kind of compression there. Speaking to something I said earlier about use cases for NFTs in game, when you're paying $1 per NFT or 30 cents or anything above 1 cent, really, you get into the territory of this cost cannot scale to all of my players. As we've seen some direction from Apple with NFTs on mobile and being able to be sold via IAPs, we are now reaching worldwide and massive distribution of NFTs in games. And so as that applied to Stardust, we took a holistic view and said, we need a way to give NFTs to the masses. right? Far above minting quickly, but minting at scale. And so compression really allows us to do that. It allows us to provide more products to our customers in how we offer value to them for all of their players, not just the few that can afford NFTs, and really just interact with more of the ecosystem that we could not before.
That's great. Austin, when you think about, kind of this being backwards compatible and building it so there's minimal lift or change necessary by ecosystem partners, from a Metaplex perspective, what are some things we need to think through with our existing program library, if anything? Kind of just how are you thinking about it?
Okay. We have a lot of contracts. We have a lot of protocols. There's a lot of community contribution and more to come, I'm sure. We do have to work on our contracts. We have to support looking at the proof nodes. But again, I wanna highlight that there is a Solana program called SPL account compression that is the base layer for this compressed standard. And we will be able to send the proof to that contract to verify if this is the correct data. Like I said, it does require some off-chain coordination, data stored that hashes up to the Merkle root. That's what creates confidence, that's what creates security. And so one part of that is that the Metaplex Read API, we're building in all of the standards that we've created so that it's easier and easier to use these systems. Auction House and other sales protocols. You can sell compressed NFTs, you can list them, you can transfer them, of course, you can update them, but we're rapidly chasing after being able to fractionalize them, fuse them, and do all the normal things that you can do with compressed NFTs. It does take work, and we have to do that work, but Solana Labs and Metaplex Studios, I believe, have made it, have done a really good job of making the core architecture modular and easy to pick up and easy to add new contracts to.
Yeah, that's great. Just as we finish up here, I kind of want to bring it home. We were talking about some of the out-of-box elements that made Solana so great. This should just be out of the box. We shouldn't be talking about this next time we talk in terms of a compressed asset versus an uncompressed asset. It is just enabling minting at scale. So it's an evolutionary pattern. We are all going to do the hard work to make sure the ecosystem's ready, but right now, we are open for customers who actually want to build here. We already have some in the pipeline, so we are locked and loaded. And I just want to appreciate everyone here who's joined to talk through us. The next talk on compression is going to be a lot of user-facing stuff, so we're really excited about that. Vidor, do you have anything to add?
Just wanted to add Solflare, first wallet to fully support compressed NFTs. We're going to start onboarding developers in the following days, so just reach out if you have interest in the technology. We would like to onboard as many, and obviously start minting NFTs at scale.
Let's do it. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Oh.